Hey guys, I'm Will. Welcome to my studio and welcome to my series on how to record at home. This is part one, the essentials. Now there are many different ways to capture audio and to edit audio. You can use smartphones, tablets, other standalone devices, but what we're going to focus on is using a computer and more specifically a MacBook. So you can use a PC and everything you're going to hear is applicable for that. So once we have our computer, we'll need some recording software. Now, for Mac and PC users, there are a lot of different options. For this series, we will primarily focus on GarageBand because it's free for Mac users. But if you are a PC user, if you go to the blog post associated with this video, under the software heading, there's an article that links to the different options for both Mac or PC users. Once we have software, we'll need to capture audio and bring it into that software using an audio interface. Now, you can actually buy microphones that link directly via USB, but I recommend going the interface route because there's more options, expandability, you can hook up studio monitors, you can use headphones, etc. So an example of an audio interface is this Complete Audio 6 by Native Instruments. They still make these, they have a newer version out though, but I like this because there's combination jacks for both instrument and XLR, as well as a couple more inputs in the back. You've got a headphone jack, you've got plus 48 for your condenser mics. We'll get into all that in a little bit. And it's just a nice build and a nice dial here for your volume. It starts at about $250, and they do have cheaper versions with a little bit less functionality that's available too. But with an audio interface, you can do research and decide how much you want to spend or what you would rather, how many inputs and outputs you'd rather have, etc. So when we're recording, it's important to be able to hear ourselves, so you'll need some headphones. You don't really have to go all out with headphones. If you're just starting out, you can use iPhone headphones or anything you have lying around. It's just important to note that if you are using an interface, a lot of them have headphone jacks that need a 1/4 inch input. And so you can get a headphone adapter that takes that 1/4 inch down to an 8 inch or a 3.5 millimeter or an aux cable or however you want to call it. The next thing that's important for recording is a microphone. Now, this is what's called a condenser mic, and this is what's called a dynamic mic. We can dive into those differences later, and you can obviously do some research on that. But a condenser mic is normally more sensitive. It will need what's called plus 48 volts. So on your interface, if there's a button that says plus 48V, that would be able to power a condenser or a ribbon mic. But a dynamic mic doesn't need that. This is a Shure SM57, and I would recommend maybe starting off with something like this because it's cheap, you can use it on anything. Condensers are generally more expensive and more sensitive. And if you aren't into podcasting, I'm sure you've seen this microphone before. This is a Shure SM7B. If you're just starting out, I don't recommend it because it's really expensive. But if you've been doing this a while, it's a great microphone. So in order to actually get our signal from our microphones or instruments to our interface, we'll need an instrument cable or a 1/4 inch cable and an XLR cable or a microphone cable. And these are easily searchable, and I recommend just going to Amazon to start off getting some of these. You don't really need to go all out with basic cables to start off with. One thing you might see when you're looking at instrument cables is what's called TS or TRS, and the difference is that you'll see on this side, this is a TS, so a tip and a sleeve, and this is a tip and then a ring and a sleeve, so you'll see this extra ring right here. A TRS cable is more balanced, meaning if you're sending signal out of your interface into your studio monitors, you would want a balanced cable. But generally for instruments, guitar, bass, anything that plugs into guitar pedals, etc., an unbalanced cable will do just fine. The last two things that I would say are very optional if you're just getting started are going to be studio monitors and a MIDI controller. A MIDI controller does not make noise. It just sends what's called a MIDI CC to your software. So you can have a virtual instrument and you can play notes. And if you even want to make beats, you can actually program each key to make beats. Or there are MIDI controllers with actual drum pads that you could program as well. Generally with a MIDI controller, I would just pick a price point and then go for it. There are controllers though that do make noise, so if you want something like this is a Korg Mini Log. It's a synthesizer, so it actually makes noise. I could plug this in to headphones or to a speaker and output sound, but it also sends MIDI as well. So I have used this as a MIDI controller, and there are some deeper functionalities that we will get to in further posts and videos about how to integrate MIDI and synth for a production technique, etc. So stay tuned for that. And lastly, with studio monitors, the reason I say they're optional is because you don't really need them to actually record something. If you just want to hear yourself, you can use headphones. And you might ask, can I just use some other computer speakers to listen? The answer is yes, but if you want to start getting into mixing, computer speakers and other commercial headphones and speakers, they're going to have a very biased tuning to them, and you want studio monitors because they're built to give you a very flat frequency response, so you have the most unbiased picture of your sound. So something might sound good on your computer speakers, but when you play it in your car, it might not. So thanks for stopping by for this part 1 of how to record at home. We just went over some of the essentials. Stay tuned for part 2. We're going to get into some recording basics so we can actually use this gear that we now have. And of course, please check out willhickel.com/blog to learn more and to even dive into some of these blog posts. I have purchasing guides there and just other material for you guys. Please reach out to me on social media, comment on the blog. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm here for you. So good luck recording, and we'll see you next time.